to largest. So make sure you know that order. So capillaries are smallest. They merge into collecting vessels. Those lead to trunks. And trunks lead to ducts. And remember, there's only 2 lymphatic ducts in your whole body. On the right side, you have the right lymphatic duct. And on the left side, you have the thoracic duct. Now remember, the lymph that goes into the right lymphatic duct is from the upper right 1/4 of the body. Right side of the head, right side of the chest, right arm. Any lymph from the lower body is only going to go into the thoracic duct. Also, the lymph from the upper left side of the body goes into the thoracic duct. So 3/4 of the body's lymph goes through the thoracic duct. Remember, all the lymph from the lower body only goes to the thoracic duct because of the cisterna chyli, which gathers all lymph from the lower body and drains into the thoracic duct. So again, there's 4 vessel types. So your smallest are capillaries. Those lead to collecting vessels. Those lead to trunks. And then those lead to ducts, which empty back into the venous bloodstream. Now on this picture, we can see up here, this is the right lymphatic duct. It empties into the fork between those 2 veins. And then this long duct that empties into this fork on the left side is the thoracic duct. Remember, the cisterna chyli leads to the thoracic duct, and all the lymph from the lower body goes into that cisterna chyli. Also make sure you can identify the cervical nodes in the neck, the axillary nodes in the armpit, and the inguinal nodes in the groin. Now in this picture, you need to know everything in bold, basically. So you've got, again on this side, the right lymphatic duct. It's formed from 3 trunks. The right jugular from the head, the right subclavian from the right arm, and the right bronchomediastinal from the right side of the chest. On the left-hand side, same thing. This long duct is your thoracic duct. It has the left jugular, left subclavian, and left bronchomediastinal. But additionally, one extra thing empties into it, which is the cisterna chyli, way down here. So you can see coming into that, you've got 2 lumbar trunks from the legs. You have 1 intestinal trunk from the intestines. So again, everything that's labeled in bold, you should know on this picture. So you should have just seen, hopefully, a slide of a lymphatic vessel with a V-shaped valve in it. Make sure you know the 2 functions of a lymph node. Number 1, it filters lymph. And number 2, this is where you activate the immune system for an immune response. This picture is not in your book. This is only on the PowerPoint here, but it will be on the test. So on a lymph node, the outer part is the what? Well, this part. Capsule. And these dividers are?
Trabeculae.
Trabeculae. So then this entire area here is the what?
Medulla.
Nope. Cortex, right? In the cortex, you got these round structures, which are follicles, lymphoid follicles. And what's at the middle of each follicle? The germinal center. This area is the medulla, and what are these cords? Medullary cords. What are these vessels that bring lymph in? Afferent lymphatic vessels. And these vessels coming out? Efferent, like exit. Efferent lymphatic vessels. So here's a slide of a lymph node. There's one set up back there too. Remember, these dark purple structures are follicles. And then this wavy pink material around the outside is the capsule. Next is the spleen. Its major purpose is to filter your bloodstream, removes antigens and debris. And remember, there's two sections in the spleen, red pulp and white pulp. So when you look at a slide, remember the dark purple patches are the white pulp. And then the slightly pinker areas all around that are the red pulp. So purple patches are white pulp. You've got the thymus where you train your T cells. Remember on a slide of the thymus, you want to look for these little swirly guys, which are Hassel's corpuscles. Be very careful when taking the test to read the questions. Sometimes it'll ask you, what organ is this a slide of? Like this would be a slide of the thymus. Other times it asks, what's the structure that the pointer is indicating? So if I were pointing to the Hassel's corpuscles and said that, you would say Hassel's corpuscles. Okay? So just read the questions. That's what I know it sounds basic, but a lot of people don't do it. I don't think there's any questions on antibodies on the test. So that's pretty much the information from the lymphatic lab. Any questions over that one? Okay, there's two respiratory labs, remember. One of them is respiratory anatomy and the other one's physiology. Okay. So, purpose of the respiratory system, gas exchange or pH balance. Those are your two functions you can put, not breathing or something like that. Here's a list of all the structures in the upper respiratory tract. It's everything to the trachea. So if we take a look at this picture, we can see all these structures on the picture. So this is, of course, the nasal cavity. What are these curly bones called in the nasal cavity?
Concha.
The concha, right, nasal concha. Remember, this whole tube is the pharynx. However, I'm most likely on the test going to circle specific parts of it so you can tell me which part of the pharynx we're looking at. So this part up here would be what?
Nasopharynx.
Nasopharynx. And then this part behind the mouth is?
Oropharynx.
Oropharynx. And then this part behind the larynx is? Laryngopharynx. Laryngopharynx. So this is the larynx. And then this tube is the trachea. So people seem to mix those up a lot. Be careful about that. And then the first branches off of the trachea are the primary bronchi that enter the lungs. And of course you have this dome-shaped muscle down here, the diaphragm. Now in this picture, again, make sure you can identify the nasal concha, which are the curly bones that swirl air around when it comes into the nasal cavity. This would be your what?
Hard palate.
Hard palate, and this would be your soft palate, and the little dangly guy is the
Uvula.
uvula. So again, this section is nasopharynx. So what tonsils are these? The adenoids or pharyngeal tonsil. And then this opening is the opening to your eustachian tube, your pharyngotympanic tube. Down here's the oropharynx. Which tonsils are these? Palatine. And then at the base of your tongue, this would be?
Lingual.
Lingual. This is the laryngopharynx behind the larynx. And then this tube is the?
Esophagus.
Under the larynx is the?
Trachea.
Trachea. Esophagus is behind the trachea. Trachea is in front. That's why you can feel the rings. What is this flap on top of the larynx? Epiglottis. And again, be able to label the 3 sections of the pharynx specifically. So on this picture of the larynx, what is this big cartilage in front called?
Thyroid.
Thyroid cartilage. And then this ring underneath that is the
Cricoid.
cricoid cartilage. And we've got the hyoid bone up here, and again the epiglottis. On this view, again, the big one on front, thyroid cartilage. The ring under that, cricoid cartilage. What are these folds here?
Vocal cord.
True vocal cords. And then these further up are
False.
false vocal cords. And then this flap here is the epiglottis. So you just saw the trachea wall. So remember, mucosa always has just epithelium with the cilia. What kind of epithelium is this? With the cilia. Pseudostratified columnar. So this layer is mucosa, this is submucosa. What is this?
The ring.
It's your C ring, right, of hyaline cartilage. And then really, technically on the test, I would point to this if I wanted adventitia. If I point to this and say, which structure is this? I'm looking for C ring. Also, make sure you can identify the cilia, and then these clear cells that make mucus, which are called goblet cells. Make sure you know the order of the bronchial tree listed here. I'll tell you where most people get tripped up is between terminal and respiratory bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles sound like they're the last ones, but they're not. Terminal bronchioles lead to respiratory bronchioles. They're the last bronchioles. And those lead to the alveolar ducts and the alveolar sacs. So, this tube is the trachea. What are the first branches off the trachea? Primary bronchi. Those branch again into what? Secondary or lobar bronchi, which then branch again into tertiary or segmental bronchi. Eventually we get to the terminal bronchioles, which then lead to the respiratory bronchioles. Now each one of these little sacs is a what?
Alveoli.
Those are alveoli, but then the big group together
The sac.
is an alveolar sac. Now remember on the lung slide, this is what the bronchioles should look like. Also on a lung slide, make sure you can tell apart the smaller white circles, which are alveoli, versus the larger white areas, which are alveolar sacs. And if you look here, again, the small white circles are alveoli, larger white spaces are alveolar sacs. And your book on the picture does call them alveolar ducts, and that's just kind of confusing. They really are alveolar sacs. So if you do have that picture in your book, you want to change that. There's a lot of things to know on each of the lungs. What's the point at the top?
Apex.
Apex. What's the wide part at the bottom?
Base.
Base. Make sure you can name the lobes. So we've got superior, middle, and inferior, or you can say upper, middle, and lower on the right lung. And on the left lung, you've just got superior and inferior. Now what is this fissure on the left lung?
Oblique.
Oblique. And what is this notch on the left lung?
Cardiac.
Cardiac notch. On the right lung, you've also got an oblique, and then this one going across is what?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. Very good. All right, for respiratory physiology, the 4 steps of respiration. Step 1 is pulmonary ventilation, which is breathing, basically. Step 2 is external respiration, which is exchange between what and what? Lungs and blood. Lungs and blood is external respiration. Step 3, transport, is transport, sending the gases through the blood. Step 4, internal respiration, is exchange between what and what? Blood and tissues. Now it is important to understand how breathing occurs. So what is the first thing we need to do to inhale? Contract the muscles, right? We have to contract the diaphragm and the intercostals. What does that do? It expands the chest, makes the chest volume bigger. When the chest volume gets bigger, based on Boyle's law, what happens to the gas pressure in the lungs?
Decrease.
Boyle's is the opposite, right? So if volume gets bigger, pressure drops. You need that difference in pressures between your lungs and the atmosphere for air to move. Air is going to move from high to low pressure. Now the pressure in your lungs is low, so air moves in. And it continues to move in until what? Until it matches the atmosphere again, and that's when you stop inhaling. Now how do you start exhaling? Very good. You relax those same muscles. Diaphragm pops up. When these relax, the ribs collapse inwards. This makes your chest volume smaller. When the volume gets smaller, the pressure does what? Goes up. Now your lung pressure is higher than atmospheric, so air is going to move out until we match the atmosphere. And that's when you stop exhaling. So the device we use to measure respiratory volumes is a spirometer. Make sure you know a volume is a single measurement and a capacity is going to add at least 2 volumes together. Now remember, this chart is super important for you to study. There's even a blank one in your book. You can practice labeling it, which I would highly recommend because you will definitely have test questions labeling things on this chart. So remember, the small amount that you quietly inhale or exhale is your
Tidal volume.
tidal volume. The extra air you could deeply inhale is your
Inspiratory.
inspiratory reserve volume. The extra air you can forcefully exhale is your
Expiratory.
expiratory reserve volume. And the air you cannot exhale is your
Residual.
residual volume. And you do need to know all the numbers on here as well. Now, for inspiratory capacity, which 2 volumes do I add?
IRV and TB.
Tidal and IRV. Functional residual capacity, what is that? That's the air left in your lungs after quietly exhaling. So what 2 volumes do we add for functional residual capacity?
Expiratory.
ERV and RV. Vital capacity is from maximum inspiration all the way out to maximum expiration. The maximum exchangeable air you could have in one breath. So what do we add for vital capacity?
IRV.
IRV,
TB.
TV,
ERV.
ERV. The only thing we don't include is
RV.
residual, because you can't exchange residual air. It's stuck in there. And then total lung capacity is all the way across the chart. So we'd add IRV plus TV plus ERV plus RV. So that's the total air your lungs can hold. So make sure you know the definitions and also which volumes to add for each capacity. All right, any questions? All right. Yeah, I'm going to go over the torso model and then take a short break. If you need to get someone to bring the torso model better, feel free to come on up to the front. There's a lot to know on the torso for this test. I don't know if y'all want to stand right in front because then nobody can see. I mean, come over to the side, or don't everybody stand in front of the torso because then nobody out there can see. You see what I'm saying? Or I guess everybody can come to the front. I don't know. There's a lot of people in here. Okay. All right, what is this organ right here? You said it. Larynx. This blue thing is your larynx. Okay? And if it's a torso question, I'm going to be asking you which organ. Okay? So thyroid cartilage is not the answer. That's what this cartilage is, but that's not the name of the organ. The organ is larynx. Now this light blue tube with the white stripes going up and down is the trachea. Trachea is the tube under the larynx. And then these branches would be your bronchi. Bronchi. Yeah, and here you don't have to get specific about primary, just bronchi is okay. Just be very careful not to put bronchioles. You can't even see those, they're microscopic. Okay. Now this tube right here is what? Esophagus. That's going to be for the digestive lab. And then this dome is your diaphragm. What is this right here? Spleen. This organ is your spleen. Okay. For the digestive system, does anyone remember what this is? It's the rectum. I know some of you haven't had digestive yet, but you will be getting it. Okay, what organ is this? This is the stomach. Okay. This curve here would be your lesser curvature, and then this big curve is your greater curvature. Okay. And the sphincter at the end is the pyloric sphincter. What is this organ? This is the liver, and then this green sac under it is the green gallbladder. Would this be your right or left lung?
Left.
It's left. How can you tell? For one thing, the cardiac notch. Also, it's only got 2 lobes. Now, what is this fissure?
Oblique.
Oblique. And what is this muscle? This is also the diaphragm. This is the right lung. What is this fissure? Horizontal. Okay, very good. What are these green dots? Inguinal lymph nodes. And then what are these white stripes? Lymphatic vessels. So the green dots are lymph nodes, the white stripes are lymphatic vessels. What is all of this? What organ is this? Small intestine. Make sure you're specific. And then all of this would be large intestine. Okay, now this is all your colon, so this part going up is ascending, and then going across transverse, and then going down descending, and then this curvy part at the end is sigmoid colon. Now this pouch at the beginning is your what? Cecum. You can always tell the cecum because this wormy little appendix is attached to the cecum. What is this sheet of membrane? Anybody remember that's had it already? It's called your greater omentum. Greater omentum. O-M-E-N-T-U-M. What is this pointy organ up here? Anybody know? Pointy pancreas. That's right. So that's the pancreas. All right. So I believe that's it for the torso. Any questions? All right. Let's take a 5-minute break.